Hello, we are live and welcome to another episode of Bitcoin Treasury Company Report. In the last week, Bitcoin crashed. We touched 60K, then we jumped up to over 71K. Now seems that Bitcoin is going down, so we are going to analyze that and we are going to analyze the things that happened in the last week. Here I am with Immortal. How are you doing?
Hello, guys.
And from Indonesia, our friend Batistoshi to analyze everything what's going on.
Yeah, guys, thanks again for having me. And yeah, Bitcoin is just now below 67,000. So what's happening?
What's
End
happening?
of the world.
We have a lot of theories about it.
We have many theories, from the crazy ones to the probably what can happen. Again, we still see. Probably you can share the heat map to show.
Should we start with that one?
Probably we can leave this to the last.
But that is Bitcoin related, and then we have Treasury Company.
Yeah, let's start talking about a little bit Treasury Company. Marco, have you watched the earnings call from Strategy?
Yes, I watched the replay because I couldn't manage to watch it live. Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest takeaway is that the company is very solid, that the company is probably acknowledging that Bitcoin is in a correction phase, either bear market or a consolidation for the next months. That's probably why they anticipated with the $2.25 billion USD reserve, just to be sure that for the next 25, 30 months, all the dividends will be paid, all the shareholders and the preferred holders will be reassured that the money is there. They didn't claim nothing particularly fancy in this Q4. But I think, again, business as usual for them. Minus 50% from the all-time high of Bitcoin doesn't seem to be particularly bad for MSTR outlook or for the preferred. And I think they stressed even more the point that 2026 will be the year for stretch. So they are all in with stretch, and they think the stretch will be much bigger, and they need to build even a bigger Bitcoin position in order to sustain it.
Yeah, we have been mentioning this today in our stream in Spanish, that even though with the highest crash of Bitcoin, Stretch managed to keep the pair close to 100. It keeps, and also they pay the dividend, that is important. So yeah, I think that they will go with this instrument. Plus the stock is recovering the MNAV. So let's see what can happen.
Yeah, there was no many unexpected things. Actually, it was a normal. I think there was something like 50,000 people watching live that earning calls, which is probably the most viewed earning calls.
I think it was
history.
the most viewed for sure on Strategy. I think also Strategy on X posted that maybe it was 50,000 live, but more than 200,000 replay of the view on X. So for sure was the most viewed earnings call for Strategy. I cannot tell if globally, because probably Tesla or other company have bigger, streamers. But for Strategy is like the biggest one. So I think the hype around Strategy and around Bitcoin is still pretty solid. We just need to navigate this storm.
What do you think that now all the haters came from the capes to attack Bitcoin, to keep attacking Sailor? What do you think about that?
I mean, I'm in Bitcoin since 2018, and I think every time we had like a big correction, bear markets, drawdown, or something like bad happen, like, I don't know, COVID crash, FTX, and other stuff, people really likes to jump on those narratives and try to claim that Bitcoin is going to zero, Bitcoin is dead, these kind of headlines. Also, the Financial Times posted another article about Bitcoin is $70,000 too much expensive, something like this. So I think it's positive, because normally when we see that much hate and that much targeted misinformation, is usually a good time to buy. So I'm not saying that that's the best time to buy, or the bottom is in at 62,000 that we had a few weeks ago. But I think it's recurring every time in Bitcoin, so nothing new.
Yes. Let's go back to the Treasury space. By the way, Strategy keeps selling Bitcoin. This week they sold a negative amount of 1,170 Bitcoin.
They keep selling fiat.
They keep selling fiat. This week they bought 1,170, right?
Yeah, they bought more than 1,000. All of them, I think, was done via common stock. But again, it seems to me that they want really to increase the balance sheet as much as possible. And as you said before, Fernando, them NAV bounced a bit. So now I think it's 1.15. So it starts to be, not super, expanded, but still way above 1. So it makes sense for them and for the shareholder to have this deal. And I think the idea is to try to increase as much as possible the Bitcoin stack in order then to explode even more, probably Stretch, which for them is the diamond product, the best offerings that they have.
Yeah, plus you were mentioning that the trading of Stretch is much higher than any other instruments of the same kind.
Trading volume is 140 millions per day, which I think the average for the rest of the industry is 1 million. Double check that number, but it's a huge difference to the second one.
Yeah, the average trading volume for over 30 days is 147 million. It's almost back to 100. So yeah, I totally agree with you. It's like the best product for strategy on the preferred side is the best preferred by miles compared to the other offerings on the traditional market. And Stretch is remarkably strong, even though Bitcoin is weak. Why? Because the preferred are not correlated with Bitcoin, especially Stretch. And so I think it's a very good set of instruments to navigate the bear market. And I think strategy is operating in a very professional way. So
I think during the next run up of Bitcoin, this product is gonna do a killing, because if it is behaving like this on a way down, on the way up, it's gonna be crazy. We do 150 million on the way down. Probably they do $1 billion per day on a new 80 all-time high.
Yes, because we don't have to forget the point that Bitcoin has crashed 50%, that the Fear and Greed Index is 5, is less than any other times that Bitcoin crashed. So the sentiment is really bad. Like, and strategy managed to make these numbers. It's amazing. So when Bitcoin start going up again, that nobody knows when, but history and the mathematics show that will happen. These instruments and strategy stock will go up like crazy.
Yeah, maybe guys, one point that we should address, and also I think on X it was pretty tweeted recently, was the average purchase, the cost at which strategy acquires Bitcoin. Especially during the recent dips, if we see like the acquisition of the 2nd of February was around 87,000, and the last one was around 78,000, which is quite a lot higher than probably the average for the week. So do you have any ideas on that? It's simply because strategy has a big OTC deal, and so they have already some kind of range in which they acquire Bitcoin, or any other theory or something?
I think it's never clear when exactly is the purchase done, right? But it's clear he announced it every Monday. But we don't know exactly if that purchase belonged exactly to the previous week, what day, or if it might even be a purchase made before. As per that number that they reported looks like it was before that. It was not even on the previous week. So it might be that. I don't think it's just something like they have a pre-purchase at that price. That's what you are suggesting.
No,
So,
I'm suggesting that, for example, 78,000 for the average for last week. It seems a bit too high, to be honest.
But if the thing is,
yeah,
we need to remember that last week the price dropped like crazy. So
yeah,
it
true.
went for, probably if they bought 78 was around
but
the beginning
let's check
of the
it.
week.
I'm trying to check it out.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it was. It could be. It was 78 on
Tuesday.
Yeah, on Monday too.
Yeah.
Between Monday 2 and Wednesday 3, it was 78K. So probably the purchase was done on that Monday, and it was announced a Monday after when the crash in the middle.
Yeah, no, I think it's. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Fernando.
I think that is the way. Of course, I think the classic Sailor announce is on Sunday night, and Mondays they announce the purchase. But I remember when Andrew Webley was here, and I was asking them, how do a company buys the Bitcoin, a treasury company, and it's mostly like a person. They just contact the OTC and they receive the money, and when they receive the money, they buy. So I think that they buy when they have the money, and can be any time on the previous week.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it is that they're buying every day so that you can average the price of the week. It's probably set up to something like once a week, which makes sense for a DCA standpoint. Even though, even in this case, the DCA looks brutal because you bought it at 78, the day after dropped to 60.
Yeah.
So, by the way, that is what happened to most people coming into Bitcoin.
To everybody on us, yes.
It goes like that every time, including the MicroStrategy. So don't feel bad about it.
Yeah, probably usually, like if the week shows that the price is not volatile, it shows that they bought at the correct price on, I don't know, on the weekend. But this time it shows that was not the same.
So we want to analyze what happened on February 5 and what is the correlation between the drop in Bitcoin and the software companies. So on February 5th, Bitcoin dropped 17% to the lowest of 60K. And the same day, all software companies dropped half of it, around an average 8.5%, including Microsoft, Oracle, Salesforce, Palantir, Synopsys. So the difference between 17% and 8.5, which is half of it, it's an expression also of the implied volatility, which is for Bitcoin is double than these companies. On the analysis of the same trend day by day from January 29 to February 7, we see that day by day, the correlation between Bitcoin and the IGB, the ETF of the software companies, which include a package of around 200 companies, have a perfect visual correlations. And on the whole range from January 29, Bitcoin drops in total 22%, while all the IGB around 11%. Seeing this on TradingView since 2022, we also see that there is a perfect visual correlation between Bitcoin in blue and the IGB on the candles. Almost step by step. When Bitcoin is up, the IGB is up. When Bitcoin is down, the IGB is down. On the sinusoidal curve below, the blue one, is a tracking of the mathematical correlation, which is also fluctuating. It is not a statical thing, but it is right now at 73%. So the IGB versus Bitcoin correlation 0.73, just to remind that one is perfect correlation. For example, one should be the correlation between Bitcoin and IBIT. 0.73 between any pair of stock is a pretty high correlation. The other thing that is very much correlated is the XXX Nasdaq, the TQQQ, which track the Nasdaq with 3x difference, and in this case it's 0.78. On the other hand, gold has no correlation at all with 0.12. So what it means is that from all these 2-3 years, Bitcoin has been seen as a software company. It's not anymore a digital gold or then this narrative that is going to follow a 4-year cycles depending on the halving, or this going to follow M2 money supply, or it's going to follow gold. All of this, we can throw it to the garbage. This is the most solid explanation of why Bitcoin price action is actually moving as it is moving. On the overall show, it looks like that. That day, Microsoft 5%, Oracle -7%. So everything looks crashed the same day that Bitcoin drops to 60K. So the question is, why? Right? Because none of the Bitcoiners want Bitcoin to behave as a software company. And the only explanation that we can think of maybe is that at the same time there was also a drop on coins from the whales, from the old standing whales, right? And one of the explanations I had is that all of these people that accidentally find Bitcoin in somewhere in 2011, 2014, in that time frame, were probably not very convinced about the Bitcoin ethos, but they are in Bitcoin just because it fulfills something that they needed at the time. For example, using it for buying or selling illegal stuff, or maybe some particular use case, or it was a group of entrepreneurs that create exchanges and Bitcoin companies all the way down. But they are actually not true Bitcoiners, but just people that accidentally happen to have Bitcoin. And they are mostly related to software development. These are the developers, actually, right? So that's one of the explanations. They drop it because they're actually not very convinced people about the Bitcoin ethos, and they see it just as a piece of software or another instrument to make money. So that's overall the explanation, but it's pretty amazing to me to see that kind of correlation with software. I have been actually noticing with Nasdaq, but I never measured it. Now that we measure it, there's no doubt to me. It just behaves as software, and we don't want that. So why?
Do you think that someday we can manage to decouple from that?
Eventually, yes. This correlation will not last forever, but something have to happen in the middle.
Yeah.
As of today, we are just as Palantir.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an evolution that might take years, if not decades, to completely reshape the conception for the majority of market participants about Bitcoin. So as of today, Bitcoin, I agree, is like very high correlated with Nasdaq. It's like even far on the risk curve. So it's considered much more volatile, much more riskier, much more unstable than even stocks that are like in the technology space, which are already very far away in the risk curve. But I think, if this is the information that the market is telling us, it's actually true in the moment. So today, the majority of market participants believe that Bitcoin is this kind of hyper speculative tech stock, which we don't believe it is the case, but the larger market participant believes so. So maybe it's helpful for us to just once again think that we are probably pretty early in the process, because again, Bitcoin is far from it. Is not a pure speculation vehicle. Is not something associated to have a 0.78 correlation with 3x QQQ. It's something completely different. But again, if only 1 million people believe this against the 150 million participating in the market, it's telling me that it's still early, and probably our thesis is still yet to come. So maybe we need to wait a few more years of debasement. We need to wait a few more years of money printing. We need to wait, another 100 million people and more companies joining the Treasury space. And maybe year after year and in a decade, we have a different perspective, and hopefully we can decouple from the QQQ, or we can decouple from the traditional stock market. So I think it's a very good observation. And in 2026, we just need to acknowledge that that's what majority of the market thinks about Bitcoin.
Yeah, and the point is exactly that, right? That is the reality, despite of what the Bitcoiners think about Bitcoin, or the overall narrative. Even when people who don't know Bitcoin and you try to explain it in a simple way by saying Bitcoin is like digital gold, well, it's actually not behaving like digital gold at all. It doesn't look like the store of value that people think it is. So I don't know. That correlation actually goes up and down in a space of 2 years. So it might break in a few months. Who knows? But as of today, in the middle of this crash, it's just like that. So on the positive side of it is what happened if the software companies eventually pick up. But the bad news is that it doesn't look like, because what happened with the software companies is the disruption from the AI war. So this drop was explained with a couple of examples. For example, Unity, which was the company that creates software to develop gaming, the stock dropped something like from 45, 50 to 15 in that week, because of the news that Google launched the new product that allow anyone to build up gaming from a dashboard without no knowledge of coding, no knowledge of any other software, just that. Same for Adobe, or all of these traditional software, right? They are totally disrupted for the AI new products. So I'm not sure if software as it is going to pick up, with the exception of some particular software company like Palantir that have a very particular niche. So other than that, I think I don't like to be to the mercy of an external factor like software or AI for Bitcoin. But it is what it is.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and I think, guys, I mean, I don't want to look like every time bullish, but if we just think about more what you just said, Diego, which I think is true, I think it's very true for those companies to have a -10, -15%. They need to rethink about their business model. They need to rethink about the revenue stream. They need to rethink a lot of things, because now you can actually pay $10 per month and have an amazing tool by Google, by Anthropic, or by others. So for me, it makes total sense that software in general maybe was overvalued with very high multiples. And so there was this kind of correlation to the downside. But what's the implication from AI to Bitcoin? I don't see it. So I think it's only a misperception from the general public about Bitcoin and associating him like stock, like tech stock. And so they say if Microsoft goes down -5, Bitcoin has to go down -10. And they have this kind of mental framework. But again, I don't see any implication from AI to dismantle Bitcoin thesis. Actually, I would say that is improving Bitcoin thesis, because it's deflationary technology. And as such, Bitcoin benefits from the deflation because the overall structure needs then to compensate via monetary debasement. So in the short term, I think it's completely wrong, pricing Bitcoin as a tech stock. And I think the market, but again, the market is telling us this, and I think it's wrong. So we just need to keep our confidence and keep going forward.
Yeah, exactly. It happens. It happened a lot in Wall Street. It's not the reality of the fundamentals, but the perception, right? Same happened with the same software companies that crashed. They all reported very good earning call. The reports were very good of all of them. I think all of them were positive, and still they crash on the news that something might be disrupting the business. Same happened 1 year ago with the news from DeepSeek is going to disrupt Nvidia, and one day Nvidia lost something like $500 billion, which was not in the fundamental. Now it's double, right? So sooner or later, the market will realize that they overreact to news instead of seeing the actual fundamentals of the companies, or in this case, the fundamentals of Bitcoin. It has nothing to do with that. So eventually, probably we get back into power law mode and forget about freaking software.
Yeah, that's the point. At the end of the day, last week we crashed 17% on Bitcoin. We are like 60K down from the all-time high, watching the price now. But at the end of the day, fundamentals hasn't changed. Bitcoin is still adding one block to the blockchain every 10 minutes in average. The coins are 21 million. The nodes are running the same software. So that's the point. I can say that Bitcoin is down in fiat terms, in fiat price, but the value is still the same. The Bitcoin value is infinite. The price can change. The price depends on the market and the sentiment, but the value is infinite.
Yeah, and that's the hard life of true Bitcoiners. I think it's displayed pretty well in this chart from River. And I mean, it's not the first time. It can be worse, sure it can. It will be the last time that we see Bitcoin dropping probably 50% from all-time high, probably not. But if we see this chart, I think it's pretty reassuring that it already happened, and the previous 5 times it was much, much worse than today, because people don't realize, but minus 50% might seem like a nuclear explosion, but minus 85 or minus 77, it's more than another 50% and maybe even more another 40% down. So it's like completely different scale. So I think we're gonna survive. There are so many bad narratives today. Also, the Epstein is Satoshi Nakamoto, and I mean all this bullshit all together, which seems to me very fabricated, very targeting on X, coming very viral, because it's easy to manipulate people when there is like a price crash. But I think it happens many, many times in the past. So we just need to go back on first principle, try to study more, try to educate more, try to maybe don't stay too much on X sometimes, and try to understand that sometimes the information or the people that we are following are not really our friends, or they have some malicious intention to try to push some narrative in their own favor and so against us. So yeah, it's not the first time, guys, and you know more than me. So
the only difference was, well, in that graph it actually looks tiny, but I think the velocity of the drop in the last drop was actually faster than in previous episodes.
I mean, if we go back to COVID, it was minus 50% in 48 hours. And COVID was just 6 years ago.
Right,
Again,
right.
COVID was
COVID was the worst.
Black Swan event, I agree, but we had very, very brutal stuff. And again, also silver crashed 40% in 7 days. So again, silver is with us for like 10,000 years. So
I think it's overblown, the problem on Bitcoin, and because it's farming on engagement, it's people selling their own products. They try to drive the market into some certain situation. But if we go and zoom out, it doesn't seem like the end of the world, to be honest.
No, it is not. The thing is that, of course, I think that what is happening now with all the new people that came, and I think that the sentiment now is that we were expecting a super cycle. We were saying, or we were not expecting a so huge drop in price. Probably we were expecting, I don't know, from 126 or from any all-time high to something close to 100. Now seems that 100 is super far away. But if we compare with previous times, it can recover. And the different thing now is that nothing crazy happened that justifies this drop. So that's what.
Nothing related to Bitcoin, but it actually happens a lot. AI is a lot to digest, the whole 2025 and 2026. But it should be a positive thing for Bitcoin. The problem is that perception from Wall Street that Bitcoin is something else. So let's see when that gets fixed.
Yeah, and we also need to face it. I mean, on one side, it was important also for Bitcoin to enter inside the institutional kind of asset classes, but entering into this kind of new stage for Bitcoin is also with some cons, like having the Wall Street guys having this massive option built upon it, having traditional players trying to do their own kind of playbooks. And again, we are effectively into year 2 of this new phase and growth of Bitcoin, which again, I think it's inevitable. But we need to face it, that now is driven by different players, different volumes, different belief. And so, yes, maybe in the short term, we need to face more pain, or we need to stay into a suppressed price more longer than we expected, because the environment is completely different than 2015, 2017, or even 2020. So I think the market is adjusting to it, and it might suck, but I think the more we compress Bitcoin, the larger the next potential eruption should be, because again, it's fixed supply. We still have like 2-3% global adoption, maybe less, from population.
Of course. I think that now it's time for us to focus on the fundamentals, to keep preaching, to keep explaining the way that Bitcoin is. For the people who is not in Bitcoin and is in doubt to enter to Bitcoin, now is a good time to study. It's a good time to study, to understand the fundamentals before buying their first Satoshis. I don't know. Nobody knows what is going to happen with the price. Maybe keep dropping. Maybe next month we are back in all-time highs. Nobody knows. But for the people, it's a good time to keep studying. This is not a sprint. It's a marathon. It's a long run. And those who I was listening, I think yesterday, I don't know if it was in Spanish or in English, but someone who said, if you entered to Bitcoin last year and you are not happy, you are in pain, just leave. Just leave. Accept you lost and just leave, because you didn't understand Bitcoin. So probably you need more study. Either you study more or either you leave. But it is what it is.
Yeah, and I mean, it's also a sign that a lot of people are like just trader, just speculator, and they didn't study the singularity and the innovation that Bitcoin is since January 3rd, 2009. It's just for them a new vehicle. They just want to buy because sometimes it's like flashy news, but they didn't investigate the 100 layers. Maybe they just peel off the onion on the first or second layer and they said, okay, I understood it. and that's why it trades like a tech stock. Or when there is the Epstein file, everybody's saying that Satoshi Nakamoto is Epstein, and that's a whole CIA operation, and then we are all doomed to go to zero. So again, yeah, I agree. We need to go back, and people need to take more responsibility. Probably they didn't study enough if they sell after a minus 20% or minus 30.
That's the point. So I don't know if you have any other things to touch. Probably your article.
Yes, maybe. Yeah, I think it's also good because considering to what you just said, in bear market or in correction, it's good to go back to try to study or try to learn new stuff. It's a very simple article, I would say, for like new people coming into Bitcoin. So maybe I will just quickly share it and
Yes.
maybe read the last paragraph. So, I mean, I wrote it mainly because I was pissed off once again about all these fads around Satoshi and around Bitcoin. And so, yeah, I just decided to write this short article about the unlimited power of the idea, Satoshi Nakamoto, Bitcoin, and the birth of the singularity. And I mean, I will let all the audience, if they want, they can find it in my profile. Maybe I will just go to the end and just read maybe the last part. So on January 3rd, 2009, the singularity became alive in the digital realm. The 9 pages white paper Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, released just 64 days before, is now breathing bits, extracting its lifeblood from the CPUs of its creator and ready to spread as a positive cyber virus across all computers globally. The Genesis block is time-stamped forever in time. The Times, 03 January 2009, Chancellor on the brink of second bailout for banks, is a milestone in human progress. The rest is history, an amazing one, and we have the privilege to witness it in real time. We're all Satoshi, and join us. I think people now needs to go back when they don't understand something. Now we have plenty of resources, plenty of media channels like yours guys, tons of posts, tons of free education, free materials, free YouTube videos, free articles, free everything. It's just a matter of spending some time, free your mind, and dedicate 10 hours of your life, try to understand and study something for real. It's not in 5 minutes. You just need to go through multiple times. And again, I think we need to go back to the ethos and fundamentals of Bitcoin now more than ever.
Yes, and I was reading the other day on when I do my when I'm alone doing the live stream on Sundays, that I focus more in the philosophy and all this stuff. Now it's time not to listen all these guys that came back from their caves saying that Bitcoin is going to zero. But also, it's time not to listen to the other guys, the guys who said it's going to be 200 by the end of the year. So now we are in a time of uncertainty. We don't know which next move can Bitcoin do because nobody predicted this. Nobody predicted. Even the bulls like me, we couldn't see that this was gonna happen. Even the bears, the narrative was now we are going to go up until February. We are going to touch again 100K. Probably we are going to go to 105 and then drop slowly up to 60 in October. And then we will recover. So now we are in the middle of the uncertainty. So now again, and I repeat to everyone who is watching, study, focus on the fundamentals. See if you can endure the pain of being in this kind of asset, and don't listen to the people who say it's going to zero, now will not recover, and don't listen to the people who is telling you it's going to be 150 in a couple of months. That's my 2 cents.
Well, there are different arguments as to why people would want to study Bitcoin. It's like, as Sailor, I think it says that you don't find Bitcoin, Bitcoin find you, or it is when you actually have a problem to solve. So that part of the study also came from most of us. There is a stage when you discover it because you listen your friend talk about it. You listen the taxi driver talk about it. You see it maybe on mainstream TV for 2 minutes. Then you don't pay attention. And you take the whatever narrative you are fed, like this is for the drug dealers, this is for all the bad things. Even though you already know, maybe you even dream that maybe it would be interesting to invest on it, you don't pay attention. Eventually, you came to a position where you actually need it. Once you need it, it triggers that motivation to actually study. So the process is a little bit different, like just, I'm going to sit and study Bitcoin just because I don't have anything else to do. It doesn't happen that way. It happened from a necessity, actually. And for the people who are already in, these are the ones that I'm a little bit concerned because now I started identifying people who are considered whales or Gs that actually are in Bitcoin for the wrong reasons. These were expressed on the amount of Bitcoin sold by the whale wallets in the last month. I think it's something like 200 coins sold by the whale's wallet. So why? Is that because they have some privileged information? Why? It's because they didn't have the conviction or because they were in Bitcoin for the wrong reasons. So maybe it's a good filtering mechanism for Bitcoin to shake people out this way with the price when you are scared. And it's a test for your conviction. If you can endure these moments of pain, then eventually you will become a true Bitcoiner. But it's a process that is actually painful.
It's painful. And you said if you want to go in a rocket to the moon, probably you will throw up in it.
Yeah.
So,
especially if it's your first time going to a different gravity. So yeah.
yes, the thing is that I'm gonna say the same. Even Bitcoin is now 66, 67. If it goes to 100, 200, 300, I will keep saying the same about Bitcoin. And I will keep saying the same if we go to zero. That's the point. So
I'm going down with the ship.
I'm ready to die on this hill. As
you are the captain of the ship, Fernando. Well done.
As Chuck Muller says. So I don't give a crap. And if Bitcoin fails, I think that humanity is doomed. So that's the point. So again, but we are not gonna fail. That's the thing. Now the narrative is very.
I just look back on this time. It's the same feeling as when we were for several months in the range between 16 and 20. It was several months of that range. It goes up a little bit, down again, up a little bit, down again. Then we finally crossed the 20, and it was again for several months around 20, 25. It looks like it's going to last forever. It looks like Bitcoin is never going to be back to the 60s. Eventually, things happen, and we are back on track.
That's the point. And that's why I now have my T-shirt, my I Told You So T-shirt, back on the
closet.
on the closet, but I am ready because all the clowns that went out from the caves talking the same crap every time that Bitcoin crashes is incredible. So I think that's the point. I don't know, guys, if you have anything else to talk. I'm super pissed because of internet crap.
It's okay.
But it is what it is.
Day.
Maybe just one last thing about the OG selling, which for me again it might be on one side negative because you say those people are in Bitcoin for more than 10 years, why they are selling, or even more so why they are selling at 70K. But me, I try always to see the positive out of the negative information or the negative, let's say, trend. If a whale decide to offload, I don't know, 5,000, 10,000 or 20,000 Bitcoin, it means that probably it got sold to, I don't know, 20,000 new coiners or 50,000 new people. So I would say that spreading those coins that are concentrated because of how Bitcoin works in the beginning, every time a big whale sell the coin, it's getting distributed to 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 new people. Bitcoin becomes more decentralized. Bitcoin becomes more self-regulating by its own rules. So every time a big player decided to sell and 100,000 people decided to buy, overall for the network in the long term is good. It might be bad for the short-term price action, but for the overall structure, I think is positive. So the more OG selling now or over the last year, it's bad for the short term, yes, but I think it's very healthy for the distribution and for the decentralization of the coins and for also the creation of new Bitcoiners, as you, Diego, pointed out before. So yeah, I want to always to try to see positive out of the potential negative news, and I think OG selling is on the long term healthy and good for the distribution of the coins.
Yeah, you're absolutely on point on that. Even considering who is buying that, a big chunk of that is being bought by Strategy every week, and those coins bought from Sailor are not gonna be moved. So at the end of the day, it's a transfer from these OGs with weak hands into stronger hands. So at the end of the day, this strengthen the Bitcoin network. So it's a positive thing, but as we always say, there is it's not free of pain, but I think it's a positive thing.
Yeah, the thing is that again, probably now these OGs that we know a couple of them that they were in Bitcoin because they were in the right place at the right time, and they held because they held. But they have no conviction. Now they are selling. Probably, let's say, if they are not selling to 100,000 new Bitcoiners, they are selling to Sailor, they are selling to Andrew Webley, they are selling to Alexander from Capital B. I don't care, because these coins are not going to be moved. So they are being transferred, not from weak hands to stronger hands. They are transferred by people who has not the conviction on Bitcoin to people who are really with the conviction of Bitcoin on the long term, and they are here to change the world of finance. So that is a good thing.
Yeah, I think we can close it out on a positive note with that.
And and by the way, on the Bitcoin Treasury and conference that is going to be held in Bristol, that we are going to attend, they confirmed that Peng Li is going to be speaking, but remotely. So I cannot meet him. So, but anyway, so
you cannot meet this time, Fernando. Only this time you cannot meet. I'm sure you will have plenty of opportunities.
Of course. So, guys, again, thank you for your time. To all the guys who are watching, sorry for again. We fixed the problem of the camera. Today we had a problem with the internet. Let's see next week what happens. We are gonna be in the middle of Chinese New Year, but we are gonna be streaming because we love talking about Bitcoin. We love educating people about Bitcoin, and we are ready to die on this hill. So it is what it is.
See you guys next one.
See you guys. And Marco, last take, how people can follow you on internet, on social media.
Yeah, just on X, on Batistoshi93. And again, feel free to, if you want to read the article about Satoshi, then the singularity in Bitcoin, because I think it's pretty easy for everybody to have some grasp and some information about the creator and how the whole movement started. So I think it would be helpful.
Excellent. So thank you to everyone who is on the other side. If you like the episode, give us a like, subscribe to our channel, follow us on social media, and also follow Marco on social media, because doing so, you help us a lot on our mission of painting the world orange. See you in the next week. Take care. And we are all Satoshi.